technical difficulties. I did not have a chance to film a video for this past Monday, and I wanted to finish up our series on rest and rhythms because I think it's really important that we cultivate an attitude of rest because Jesus created rest. And so many Christians do not embrace that in their lives, and then they're burnt out and tired and they're exhausted and they're wondering, like, I thought this was the life that God wanted me to have. Why am I always feeling like I'm running ragged? Why do I feel like I never have enough energy? What's wrong with my body? You know, we start experiencing these aches and pains and difficult emotions and feelings that come up because we don't actually give ourselves physical, mental, emotional, spiritual rest. And today I want to finish up this series on rest and really talking about what if we operated from the belief that God has favored us. I know that we talk about favor, we refer to favor as grace, but I don't think we truly embrace it in our lives, because if we did, then maybe we might be seeing how we can operate in the world in a different way than if we didn't have grace or God's favor over our lives. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about some practical ways that you can cultivate healthy rhythms and routines that operate based out of grace, based out of the fact that God has favored you. And so we're going to talk about that today, but don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, ring the notification bell when I do go live on situations like this where I maybe don't have an opportunity to film the way that I originally would. I do also want to make a note that I am going to be taking a break from filming for the month of April. So please be sure to check out all my other videos that I have created over the past few months. I'd love to catch up. Make sure to leave a comment. Let me know the thoughts that you have. And I will be coming back in May. But sometimes you just need to take a rest, and that is important. That is good. So again, I just wanted to make that notice for you. There will be one more scheduled video coming up in the month of March. But for April, I am taking a break, and I don't want you to miss out on that. So be sure that you go ahead and like this video, subscribe to this channel, ring the notification bell. All right, let's jump back into the last episode, or the last series on cultivating rest and rhythms. I want to read to you the key verse that we have been discussing, which is Matthew 11:28. Then Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." I want you to imagine what your life would be if you operated out of the belief that God has favored you. What would your life look like if you truly believed that you had God's favor and that God genuinely cared about you? What would your life look like? This belief of favor is also known as grace. Grace is something that we toss around in Christian circles, but grace is really the abundance of God giving you a gift that you can't earn, you don't deserve, and His kindness and His goodness towards us is that He is willing to give us this favor. But the favor is really hard for a lot of Christians to accept and believe. Like, we believe it mentally, but we don't believe it within the way that we operate our lives in every day. We see, when you are a Christian, as you're operating and growing in your faith with God and your walk with Him, you start now operating and thinking that you have to do certain things to stay in good standing with God. Which is why most of the time you'll see those that are really trying to grow in their faith, they participate a lot in ministries, they are constantly saying yes to things, they don't give room for rest because they feel like they have to go ahead and keep a constant pace in order for God's favor to stay with them. But God's favor is just that. It is His favor. The Bible tells us that there's no perfect work, no perfect attitude or words that will force God's favor on you. Just like a parent loves their child, God's heart is for you and for your good. But we have to believe that. If we don't believe that for ourselves, then we will not operate based on rest and rhythms and routines that God wants us to have to continue to enable us to live a life that He calls us to live. And if we believe and accept God's favor for ourselves, it will show up differently in how we cultivate those rhythms of rest and routine. Now, I did want to end this series in talking about some practical ways that we can have routines in our lives that will help us cultivate a good and healthy pace so we're not burnt out on religion. I do want to talk first about our rest routine. You see it a lot, on social media, or even if you're scrolling and seeing all the short videos of people talking about this is my nighttime routine, and how they will do things to make themselves have a better sleep habit. And that is very important. We need to cultivate good sleep. But I want a different perspective, because if we operate and know that we need rest, then I want to remind you, or not remind you, but let you know that the way that we operate here in the Western world is not the same the way that we operate across in other areas. I find it really fascinating that the Middle Eastern culture operates their day, they start their day when the sun goes down. And this is the same culture in which the Bible was written. So I want you to imagine that your idea of starting your day is not just getting up and going, but your idea of starting your day is resting and going to sleep and starting it when the sun is going down. You are starting in rest. I want us to think about what a mental shift that would be if you operated starting your day by going to sleep. Now, cultivating a good sleep hygiene is going to be really important. Not a lot of people get enough sleep, and not even sleep in general, but good REM cycle sleep that you need to have that rest that resets your mind. Because sometimes when you're cranky and you're trying to go to bed and you're I woke up feeling even worse than I was, it's because you didn't actually get good sleep. So let's talk about some ways that we can practically have good sleep in our lives, good rest habits. Number 1, your phone. I know it's really, really, really hard. I struggle with it myself, but you can put your phone away. But an hour or two before bed, start getting in that habit, maybe putting it in a completely other room. I know it's tempting to just stay and scroll, and it is addicting. I understand that. But our phone breaks up our sleep. It disrupts our circadian rhythm, which is something that God created to help give you good sleep. So putting your phone away an hour or two before bed is going to be helpful. And replace that by finding a connection. Maybe finding someone to talk to that you live with. If you have roommates, just catching up with them and seeing how they're doing. Or if you do use your phone, making a phone call at the end of the night, so you're not on your phone looking at it, but you're on your phone talking to them. Side note, do you know that when people go to hold their phone, we go like this, and some people go like this nowadays, and very, very side note. But finding a connection, finding someone to talk to, or even journaling, a way to connect with yourself and just writing out what it is that you were experiencing throughout the day. And then the third thing that you can do to help adjust your rest routine is embrace the cozy. Making sure your bed's clean, that's super important. Having mood lighting, not using your overhead lighting to see everything, maybe having a nightstand, just a simple swap, using a diffuser, different things like that are going to be really, really helpful in order for you to create a healthy rest routine. Now, I do want to make a note that if you are in survival mode and you are struggling to just exist, you might think, well, why am I going to try and make something cozy? I can barely make it through whatever it is I'm going through. I genuinely understand that. As someone who has been in survival mode before, who's been wondering how am I even going to pay my bills, it might seem superficial to think, well, how am I supposed to make something cozy or cute or comfy? I'm just trying to get through life. But that little shift will help you when you are cultivating rest. It might seem silly, but it's actually something that's good. It's a good thing to have a cozy environment. And also make sure that wherever it is that you are sleeping, that you are separating, that is your sleeping area. If you work from home, if you just rent out a room, whatever it is that you do, don't do your work on your bed. Have a separate area. If it literally needs to be on the ground, let it be on the ground. Make your place of rest your place of rest only. That mental shift will help you a lot when it comes to separating rest and work. Speaking of work, we're going to talk about work routine. Now, that is really important because Everyone has different types of work. We can work from home now. We can have an office job. Some people might freelance. You might have a different variety of ways that you are creating an income. And if your income is not like out the door 9 to 5, then that is going to be very difficult for you to make that transition into work, because God created work. Work is not a bad thing. You want to be able to have a way that you are cultivating a routine within your work so you're not burning yourself out. Work is good, but you need to have these little adjustments. Couple of things to take in mind. Dress up. Dress up for the job you want. Whether you're leaving the house or whether you work from home or whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whatever it is that you do, whatever you work, if you're a student and you're working from home, being a student is your full-time job. So dress up. If you're comfortable wearing sweats, great, but maybe switch out of your sweats that you went to bed with and put on some new sweats. Make that mental shift in your mind that you're gonna get up, you're gonna wash your face, you have clean hygiene, you're gonna put on fresh clothes. Just as simple as that. Whatever fresh is to you. If you're someone who needs to put on a dress or put on some heels, or if you need to put on a suit, like whatever that is for you to mentally get yourself into the mindset that I am going to work now. Do it. And then have some workstations, especially if you work from home. Have different workstations where this is where I'm going to do my work here, whatever's going to pay my bills or whatever your unpaid work is, like having those separate areas. I was homeschooled, so I learned how to have different areas where I would do different types of work for my schooling. And that is a really helpful thing. Now, I was a teenager, so I would do my work on my bed, but I learned to get away from that and learned that maybe like doing work at the kitchen table or doing work in a completely different environment, wherever you're doing your work, have a workstation. So that way you can leave your work when it is time. And then bring your A game. You know, Colossians 3:23 through 24 tells us that whatever we do, we want to do to the glory of God. And so as you're working, your work needs to be honorable. That way you can say you gave what you had, whether it's paid or unpaid. You gave everything that you had to honor God, and you're showing up and you're giving that energy the way that it's supposed to be. And if you do not work from home and you like go out and you have a different job, on your way back, give yourself a longer ride back home to help yourself mentally switch from that on and off. Like, okay, I was working, now I'm taking this route home to help transition into this different environment. Which is the next thing, having a play or create routine. We live in a creator economy, as people talk about. But I think that what happens is a lot of people want to create to make an income. But sometimes we're meant to create just to create. Like, do you remember when you were a kid and you stepped on a Lego? Okay, because those are the worst. I hate stepping on Legos. But do you remember when you were a kid and you were building Legos and you were building something together and you were allowing your imagination to run wild? Do you remember that? But then you had responsibilities, and then things stopped being, you had to actually do things. And then now you're in a creator economy that tells you that you need to create in order for you to make some kind of income. Oh, you can't just have a hobby to have a hobby. You have to find a way to make an income out of it. But what if I told you that God's idea was to create? That we are meant to play, we are meant to create, we are meant to have these opportunities where we are embracing the fun that God wants for us. It is okay to have fun as a Christian. Just if no one's ever told you that, let me tell you that. It is okay to laugh and have fun as a Christian. It is okay to play and to create. There's something holy and good in that. That is a good thing. Now, if you are wanting to work on your creativity, your play routine, things like that, here's a couple things you can do. Number 1, do one new thing in your routine. Like, maybe you are someone who likes to meal prep, and for you, it's really fun to find a new recipe, to find one new thing that you want to try this week and just take your time, have no time limit with it, and just get creative in the kitchen. Or, I don't know, I really love food, so food is my go-to. But do one new thing in your routine. Maybe you are on your way home from work. And if you're like me, I get stuck in a rut. I gotta go home. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Like, I have things that I need to do. But if I take just a side detour and say, you know what, maybe I'll go visit that farm stand before I go home. Just adding something fun, something fresh to remember that like life is meant to be enjoyed, and that is okay. The other thing you can do is you can schedule your time with your friends and your family. If you're not actively creating pockets of time where you are spending intentional time with people, then you're missing out on that fun and that play that you can have, and being with people who make you feel enjoyable, who you want to spend time with. Like, those are the people that you should be cultivating and creating scheduled time. We're like, hey, I want to get together. I want to go have coffee with this friend, or I want to go to the mall and walk around with this friend, or I don't know, we want to make a craft together or some type of thing. Like, having scheduled time to just be with people is important, especially if you are a scheduler and you forget that I need to spend time with people. And then finally, creating just to create. Like I said, you don't have to create something in order to make an income. You can create or play because that's how God designed us. He's the original creator. We are the created beings, and we worship God when we create back, when we allow Him and His imagination to run through us. Like, I have really been rediscovering the love of paintings. I don't paint, but I love seeing artists. I've been rediscovering that love, or listening to music, or something that maybe you wouldn't consider normally as a creative thing, like writing, or I'm trying to think, there's other things that come up where you wouldn't normally consider like a creative, but whatever you're doing that is flowing out, that is giving you a sense of joy. Maybe you really love to create Excel sheets. If you are that person, help me, because I'm not that person, but maybe that is you. And maybe that's just something you enjoy to do, and God uses our creative skills to bless other people and to bless us. It is okay to create and to have fun and to play. So don't be, if you're tempted to try to earn an income from it, it's okay. You can just enjoy things, to just enjoy them. But as we're ending this series, and I'm ending this live soon, I want you to have a look at your calendar. We have talked about rest and routine and create, like, all of these things of how we are to operate based out of God's favor for us. Because God favors us, because He has given us grace, we don't have to earn His approval. We don't have to fill our calendar to the brim hoping that God will be okay with all of our efforts. He already loves us. Everything we do should be from an outflow of that love. So look at your calendar. It's not going to be perfect. There will be times where you're going to be more focused on work, or maybe you might be a little bit more idle. Like, it's a give and take. There's no perfection in that. But take a look and see, you know what? Am I spending too much time building, like, focusing on income? Am I spending too much time playing with my friends? Which is essentially what we do. Like, we go play with our friends. Like, we go have fun, we hang out. We say hang out, but really we're just playing with our friends. Do I need to spend more time focusing on being responsible? Or am I having enough free space where I can just create something to create it? Whatever that might be, it's good to know that everything is a season. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time, but it can be a good experience for you to take a step back and look and see, what is upcoming? What do I want to make room for? Where is God wanting me to pull back, and trust Him that He will take care of the rest? Because ultimately, that's what this all comes down to. That is what the purpose of resting and rhythms and routines comes down to, the fact that, do you trust that God loves you and He will take care of what you cannot take care of? And I hope that in this conversation, you will have found that God really does love you. He does care about you. He has your very best interest in mind. And you can operate your life based off of that belief. You don't have to run ragged. You don't have to try to fill the void because you're trying to make up for whatever it is you feel like you're not good enough for. God's grace is sufficient, so you can take a nap. It's okay. Jesus took a nap too. So again, this is the last video that will be for this series, and I am taking a break in April, so there will be one more scheduled video. But I pray that this video and this series of rest and routine has blessed you. And if you have found it helpful, leave a comment below. I'd love to catch up with that. And I will catch you in about a month or so. All right, talk to you soon.